I mean, I'm kind of glad you mentioned this because I think, like you said, a lot of guys would hear this and be like, why is he complaining? This is the life. Like, everybody wants this. But obviously not. And this guy, if he is what he says he is and is successful and has all this stuff, he's still not happy.
Right. Yeah.
Because what? He's missing love. He's missing somebody loving him. And I'm sure getting escorts and whatever has made him probably feel more lonely and less loved. Because these women don't care about him.
Right. Yeah. It's
he's a paycheck to them.
It's even a different situation. Like I said, like what I was in where I wasn't paying, had learned the skills. I had, had women coming, to me. So, but even still, that was still empty. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm pointing out.
Like, even if you work for it in the sense of like, you romance them or whatever.
Right.
It's not fulfilling. And I've always felt that way when I would see men be like, oh, well, this is the life. I'm like, you're not fulfilled. Like, you're really not. And just like women being like, I don't need a man, they're also missing something.
Right,
I'm not saying that it's just men, but women want love. And it's pretty obvious. And usually the only time that a woman acts like she doesn't want love is because she's been burned so many times, but she still wants it.
Exactly. Well, and
she still wants it.
It's funny because the video that I was editing today, the one that I showed you, right? Mm-hmm. When I showed it to the guys in my mastermind, one of the guys was like, yeah, you know that story with the high school crush? He was like, that just hit me. So that's when I was really the most dialed in. And he was like, because every guy
has had that moment.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so...
And every woman's had that moment, right? Every woman's loved or like had a huge crush on a guy.
Right.
How many women have ended up with that guy? Like in high school, you know what I mean?
But guys start out with the heart on their sleeve.
Right.
Right.
And then
they write a sappy love letter. They see a girl, they fall in love with her without even really knowing her. And then they get their heart stomped on and crushed. Mm-hmm. And then they a lot of times will start to think, oh, that's just a fairy tale. That's not real. You got to grow up.
Women also like to say that to other women.
Yeah.
Plenty of people said that to me too. But I was like, no, I think you can have love that is good. You know, I'm not saying it's like the movies, but I'm like, I mean, I agree with that now, but I'm just saying that like people tried to convince me they're like, oh, like this isn't realistic. Yeah. You need to like lower your standards or get real about what's out there. And I get why people even say that. But at the same time, I think people do a disservice when they get jaded like that. Like, I'm not saying be like, it has to be perfect. And I'm not settling for anything less than perfect. Have your standards like we talked about in the other episode and things that are non-negotiable. But like strive to have the best that you can without, you know, being like, oh, well, you know, this isn't realistic. Because then you end up settling, which is what the topic was supposed to be.
Well, I mean, it still kind of is because we got, but it's interesting because the thing about settling also that I think is so important is that you have to be the equivalent, right? So I did a video the other day, a short, where I was like, imagine you were a hot girl, right? Like, you know, I can't remember exactly how I said, but I was like, imagine you were a hot girl, right? Mm-hmm. You know, imagine how many choices of selection that she has.
Oh, I saw this video of yours and it was really good.
Would she pick you? If you were her, if you were that girl, would you pick you?
Right.
That's what it was. And that's the thing about, and it goes both ways. I said it to guys because that's my audience. But with standards, what people confuse with it, and that's why some people have unrealistic standards because they're not realistic to them because they're not, they're like,
not bringing their best self, but they're expecting someone else's best self.
Your resume includes, we'll just pick on 7-Eleven and McDonald's, and you are interviewing for
Rolex.
CEO of Pepsi or Rolex, you know, like CEO executive position.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, that's my standard.
And then you're mad.
I will not take less than $1 million a year. Right. So you have to be the $1 million man or the $1 million woman if you want the $1 million man or woman. Right. So you have to really think, if I were the standards that I have, the woman that I want, if I were the man, you know, whatever it is, if you're a man or woman, you have to think, would I pick me? Would I be excited about picking me? And if the answer is no, then one of two things has to happen. Either you need to elevate yourself up to that level to become that, or you do need to drop your standards in that case because they're too high.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I had some other thing that I totally lost and I should have wrote it down on my paper. I know, but okay, repeat what you just said.
I said that you have to decide if you're going to up your level to be up there, or if you're going to lower your standards to be where you're at, to, you know, so.
I know what I was going to say now.
Okay.
You know, I just wanted you to repeat it so you could drive that home. But what I was going to say, like for this guy and just in general, is that you don't have to be perfect to be in a relationship or be with somebody, because I don't want people to think that they have to be totally fixed before they could be in a relationship. No. That's not the case. What you do have to be, though, is working towards bettering yourself.
Well, and I would say that
and putting it into action.
It doesn't matter where you are. You can get in a relationship, but then you're going to grow together with the person. Right? And you're going to do that anyway. But what I'm saying is that if you're here, don't try to find people that are up here and then think you're going to grow. Like, you got to find people that are at the level that you are, and you can both grow together and be up there. So you got to decide what you're going to do. Maybe you're like, okay, well, I don't want to get into a relationship until I'm, and that's probably good. Like, if you're way down here, you're going to get into a nasty relationship. It's going to be toxic, right? Because if you're toxic, you will have a toxic relationship. So if you've worked on yourself, it's a guarantee, right? You know, so
I'm like, I don't think I was that toxic when I had a toxic relationship.
It doesn't mean that you're going to have it doesn't mean that you're toxic. You can still have.
You also had a toxic relationship.
But if you're toxic, you will guaranteed have a toxic relationship.
Right. Yes.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have worked on yourself to a certain degree, then you can get into a normal relationship and you can still grow together.
Right.
But you have to have some semblance of growth to start with.
I mean, but I will say this guy, I'm speaking to that guy still because that's a lot. But he does have things that he has to do before.
Right.
Like, the sex problem has to be at least like heavily overhauled.
Yeah.
Before he can get in a relationship. There's just no way. Like, no woman is going to be able to handle where he's at right now.
Yeah. Especially when he's like, hey, I'm just going to go to 7-Eleven real quick.
Right.
And then she's like, why were you gone for an hour?
Yeah, she can't trust him. Like, he's not, like, he hasn't learned, he hasn't,
bad habit.
He hasn't even showed that he has self-control yet. Like, he has to show he has self-control. He has to show that he's working to fix this, which, again, like I said, him messaging you and wanting us to talk about it, I think he is trying to go in that direction, obviously. But there's a lot that he has to do that we can't do for him, unfortunately. Better than perfect, we stand.